Hello everyone in Oneness. Thank you so much for watching this video. I am Jessica Delmar, and in this video we're going to talk more about the sort of opening up out of 3D consciousness and expanding into a more heightened state of consciousness such as 5D and beyond. In the last video we spoke about the difference between vibration and frequency, or rather this sort of scale of duality that holds vibration and frequency, and this sort of other realm, if you will, that holds consciousness. And so the difference between consciousness and vibration and frequency, and how in a lower vibrational plane of reality, such as 3D, the two were not necessarily working together in a heightened state of consciousness way, meaning consciousness was still open in the vibrational scale of duality, meaning in lower vibration or higher vibration, it doesn't matter where you are on that duality scale, you're still opening up consciousness, but the consciousness that you're tapped into may not be of a heightened state of consciousness. Like we mentioned in that last video, there are many different layers of consciousness that a person can tap into, or that a being or energy can tap into technically, because it showed me kind of like this spider web. And if you think of everything, all that is, all that has ever existed, all that will be is contained within this spider web. The spider web itself is the network that connects all things, and that spider web itself is consciousness, which all essentially stems back into source itself, which is the seed of all that is and all that has been projected into many different types of creations, vibrations, frequencies, dimensions, realms, etc. So having been birthed into a third dimensional reality in these physical forms, we are connected to a certain vibration or frequency based upon, very strongly based upon our emotion and the energy that we're holding here as individual human beings. And therefore that opens a frequency and vibration of us as individuals, which opens a projection in alignment to that frequency and vibration that opens a manifestation of our realities around us and the things that we manifest and create for ourselves. In this sort of realm of Earth experience and the unique vibrational frequencies that we each are holding and creating our realities upon, we are tapping into a consciousness that is aligned to the vibrational frequency that we are holding, because a physical experience very much, I want to say it sort of limits our ability to tap into higher states of consciousness in a conscious way, because many of us are existing here on this planet in our realities in an unconscious way, meaning many people are unconsciously creating their realities, meaning many people are sort of just bouncing around in their experiences and allowing their reactions to their situations, experiences, people, places, things in their realities to create for them based upon default of their reactions to all of these things, versus being conscious and aware of what you're feeling and the emotions that you're holding surrounding these certain things that you're creating for yourself, and then consciously creating from there. So that moves into deliberate creation, being a deliberate manifester, using the law of attraction to become more conscious and aware of your vibration so that you can hone your vibration into the higher frequencies and begin creating and manifesting a more deliberate reality for yourself, a more desired reality for yourself, so that you're no longer an unconscious creator and manifesting things that are undesirable to you. So that's sort of step one in the greater macro aspect when looking at the Ascension journey as not only a collective, but as a planetary journey, and then looking even further out in the macro as a galactic journey and as a universal journey of ascension, because all is ascending all together in oneness, because we're all connected in this greater interwoven web that connects all of us. So in the journey of ascension, we're able to access heightened states of consciousness in order to help pull us into higher vibrations, higher dimensions, essentially, because we're moving and shifting in dimension. And with this shifting or heightening of dimension has to come in alignment with a shifting and heightening of consciousness. Because it's almost like if you think of a 3D experience, you can think of it sort of in a box, although nothing is boxed in, but essentially it's sort of like a box where 3D, your ability to reach states of consciousness for the most part, and especially for the unconscious human being, that person's ability to reach states of consciousness is sort of held and contained within this box of 3D space or realm. And again, this network of consciousness exists in all things. It exists in all frequencies and vibrations and dimensions and galaxies and planets and worlds. It's like it exists in everything. It is the web that everything is held within, and the web itself, that network that interconnects everything, is this greater consciousness. But in the 3D space, it's very like if you think of that greater web, but the 3D space is this little tiny dot within that greater web. That's the only access that an unconscious person in 3D is able to attain in terms of consciousness. However, there are those people who can exist within a 3D space but still tap into higher states of consciousness because they're able to open their awareness outside of that box, because they become more aware, they become more conscious of how to utilize that greater perspective, because that's essentially what consciousness is it's this open perspective space that you view through. It's almost like a lens that you view through when it comes to viewing the reality that you're playing within. Meaning you lift up above your physical reality. If you happen to be in a physical experience, you're able to lift up above that reality and view it with the eyes and lens of source from this heightened perspective, so that you can see all the many different puzzle pieces that are being put together to make up your greater experience in your physical reality. And so the person experiencing in a 3D consciousness who is unaware usually can't necessarily put themselves outside of that box, because especially when it comes to vibration and frequency on that duality scale, that person in an unaware state is very much bouncing around. They're unconscious. They're allowing their emotions to create in a default way their reality for them. And it keeps them in that cycle of default creation based upon especially emotional reaction. In that 3D space, or that 3D sort of box space, when a person is able to raise their vibration into the higher frequencies of that vibrational scale, meaning duality essentially, you're just raising into higher states of emotion as well as vibration, which in the higher states of emotion opens lighter states of vibration. And in those lighter states of vibration, you're able to, it's like doors, you're in a more open state, basically, where you can open up those doors to see beyond what's inside of that box, meaning you're able to bring forth consciousness that extends far beyond what is limited within that box of 3D consciousness. And it's because you're in an open space, you are open to receiving the many different things that come from these higher vibrations, versus in the lower vibrational states on the duality scale, you're a lot more closed off from receiving those higher vibrational sort of glimpses into heightened states of consciousness. And so heightened states of consciousness is always existing in a higher vibration, higher vibration, higher vibration. And so that's why it's so necessary to raise your vibration in order to peek into what can come next in terms of heightened vibration. However, what we're trying to say is that you don't necessarily have to be on the duality scale. And in fact, moving forward in this shifting time, it's about stepping off of this duality scale of emotion and vibration that keeps people up and down in this bipolar way of like high vibration, low vibration, high vibration. It's like bouncing around based upon your emotion. And that's a very 3D space. And when we're shifting and transforming into a 5D space, the person in the connection to heightened consciousness actually moves off of that scale completely. Not necessarily off it completely, but in that consciousness realm, you're no longer existing within that duality scale, meaning you open up into this state of neutrality, this neutrality zone or vortex that really opens non-attachment to this duality scale, meaning that when you open up into this neutrality zone, you're connected to heightened states of consciousness, which allow you to see that greater perspective. You have that bird's eye view of the reality that you're physically taking part in. So you're now in co-creation between that heightened perspective and that heightened consciousness, along with your physical experience in this physical reality of that duality scale, meaning in 5D, that duality scale doesn't go anywhere. We're still in a duality-based reality, but our experience of that duality scale in 5D is going to be completely different from our experience of that duality scale in 3D. In 3D, we were so far deep in that duality scale, high vibration, low vibration, high vibration, low vibration, bouncing all around, default reactions, allowing our emotions to really sweep us even further and further and further into that duality scale, and further into deeper manifestations of what we do not want. And so in 5D, our experience of that duality scale comes from the consciousness of this neutrality state, which is just essentially a non-attachment state to the emotions and the things that arise or manifest out of that duality scale, meaning that we're still taking part in the duality. We still have a range of emotions. We still have high vibrational frequency emotions or experiences, as well as low frequency emotions and experiences. But we understand in co-creation with our heightened consciousness perspective from that neutrality zone or from that non-attachment sort of realm, that even if we dip into low vibrations, we're not so attached to it in a way that it's going to drag us under. Meaning if we dip into lower vibrations, we understand in co-creation with our heightened consciousness, that bird's eye view, the eyes of source, viewing our experience with the eyes of source, we understand we're going into those lower vibrations for a reason, for our greater expansion. And the same thing goes with heightened or higher vibrational or frequency experiences and emotions as well as anything in between. In connection to that heightened state of consciousness, everything that you experience on the duality scale is for your greater expansion, and you utilize everything to your advantage in that way. And it allows you to grow and expand out of any situation, experience, or emotion that you may have while in 5D or beyond. So how do you get out of 3D and into 5D? How do you spin out of that 3D consciousness and into 5D consciousness? The very first step is acknowledgement and recognition of becoming aware in that state as you are there. Meaning this is also part of your ability to open into higher vibrations if you're in lower vibrations, meaning you have to become more aware of where you are. You have to become more connected to your now moment and everything that comes up for you. You have to become more conscious of everything that is coming up for you, meaning that the consciousness shift is realizing that you are having a physical experience, not as a physical being, but as a spiritual being, and that there's a greater divine inner being that is trying to work through you in terms of your connection to the source within, so that you can connect to that divine inner being and have that be expressed through you in those heightened states of consciousness. In the lower states of consciousness, such as 3D, you may not be as connected to that divine inner being, meaning step 1 is about acknowledging that everything that you're experiencing is a divine connection to your divine inner being. Meaning, because you have prior knowledge as being a deliberate creator, law of attraction, manifestation, etc., you know that in those lower vibrations, you are not aligning to your divine inner being. So, in essence, when lower vibrations open up for you, there's something there that your divine inner being is saying, you are not in alignment with me. In that state of acknowledgement, it helps open up a doorway for you to open into this neutrality zone, this non-attachment realm that exists off of the duality scale. Meaning that even in lower vibrations as well as higher vibrations, you have the ability to access heightened states of consciousness. It's just that in a 3D lower vibrational space, especially on the duality scale, in lower vibrations that manifest lower vibrational emotions, the emotion is what sort of shields you from receiving those doorways that will open you into those heightened states of consciousness to make those realizations from the eyes of source. But now that there are more doors opening in all the different layers of the many different frequencies and vibrations within the duality scale in 3D, in order to get people to open their eyes in every situation, experience, emotion, so that they can see that there is a doorway there that they can step off of the scale into this neutrality zone and say, hey, there's something here that doesn't feel right. I'm experiencing lower vibration, or I'm experiencing a very lower vibrational situation with this person or whatever is happening in your experience, and this does not feel right. It does not align with something within me that's calling for me to spin out of this experience. And so in that sudden realization of being conscious and aware of where you are, that will help open the doorway for you to exit out of that duality scale and into this non-attachment neutrality space. The same thing can happen in higher vibrations. So in higher vibrations, your awareness of you being in a higher vibration, or you're being conscious of you being in a higher vibration by offering gratitude, meaning you understand that you are in a higher vibrational space, not solely because of you here in the physical, but in co-creation between you here in the physical and you in the non-physical, that greater aspect of you, the divine inner being, which is being experienced and expressed through you in that higher vibrational state. You are not only a physical being, but you are a spiritual, non-physical, energetic being that is connected to a greater source, that is here having a physical experience for the greater expansion of you. And that is the realization that brings you into the awareness of your now moment that will help open doors for you to step into this neutrality, non-attachment space to this duality scale, whether high vibration or lower vibration, because we spoke about this in the last video. As long as you're on the duality scale, whether in high vibration or low vibration, you have the ability to move up and down the scale. Meaning in high vibration, even if it opens up doorways for you to receive higher states of consciousness, it's going to close those doors the minute you start dipping into lower vibrations. And so in 3D, a person can go very much high to low, high to low, high to low, or bounce around based upon your vibration and frequency and emotion. But we don't want that in 5D. In 5D, we are opening up into a balanced state, where in that balanced state, you're able to hold your connection to heightened states of consciousness while still experiencing different frequencies, vibrations, and emotions on that duality scale, but not being so attached to it. So step 1 is about stepping off of the duality scale and into the state of non-attachment by simply recognizing and acknowledging that you are an extension of Source in a non-physical energetic aspect, having a physical experience, and that whatever you are opening in your physical experience, whether it's low vibration or higher vibration, you are opening for the greater expansion of you. And when you become aware and conscious of in that moment that there's low vibration opening up for you or higher vibration opening up for you, not solely for you in the physical, but that there's a connection there between you and the physical and you and the non-physical, there's communication there, there's a message there, then it helps to open up those doorways for you to step off of that duality scale and into the neutrality zone, into the state of non-attachment. This opens your ability to find balance with the world around you. And this can happen wherever you are on this duality scale. The doors are opening. The doors are opening on every single level and layer of this duality scale, meaning even if you're in lower vibrations, the door is open for you to find balance with the world around you. Even if you're in high vibrations, the doors are open for you to find balance with the world around you. Finding balance with the world around you opens you up into that neutrality zone, the non-attachment realm, in order for you to understand that everything around you is offering this greater message for you to connect to that divine inner being. Entering into that neutrality zone, this non-attachment space, is step 1, meaning that no matter where you are on the scale, and usually in the lower vibrations, in order to open up into that neutrality zone, you have to kind of soothe yourself into this space. You have to soothe yourself into a place of energetic non-attachment to whatever emotion, person, place, thing, situation, experience you're dealing with in this duality space, in the high vibrations or low vibrations. Soothing yourself is everything that we've talked about. It's about you recognizing and understanding and becoming aware that you are a spiritual, non-physical, greater extension of Source energy having a physical experience, and that you're opening these experiences up, whether high vibrational or lower vibrational, for you and for the greater expansion of you. Finding balance with the world around you, or soothing yourself into this balanced non-attachment neutrality space, is really about remembering that you are part of a greater whole and that you are greater than just your physical experience. And then it's this neutrality space, if you're able to get yourself into this neutrality space, it's from here that you're then able to open up a new doorway into the vortex of oneness, which is this space of heightened consciousness to pour forth into where you are in your now moment in that neutrality zone, that balanced state, to then open up into your physical experience. So step 2 is about opening into the next doorway, which is this vortex of oneness consciousness, or heightened consciousness from wherever you are. When you're able to step into this neutrality zone, this non-attachment zone, then it allows you to open up this doorway into heightened consciousness. But the way that you're able to do that is step 2, which is opening up the greater perspective into where you are. Meaning, allow the energy of that heightened perspective to come forth and pour forth for you here in this neutrality zone. Meaning that you have to put yourself into a place of receiving that greater perspective. Again, consciousness is seeing with the eyes of Source, as if you are above or like in that heightened bird's eye view state of seeing you and the physical and everything playing out for you. Seeing and witnessing all the different players and the energy that goes on beneath the players and the underlying energy and how everything is put together into a greater puzzle that you can't necessarily see or feel or sense when you're in it on the ground level. And so you have to begin to open up your perspective and view with this bird's eye view, which is essentially that oneness consciousness or heightened consciousness pouring forth for you, that can only really be realized in the neutrality zone or in this space of non-attachment, because when you're in or on the duality scale and experiencing all the different emotions and you're up and down in high vibration or low vibration, then it's harder to take your perspective out of that space and into the heightened bird's eye view. Because when you're on the duality scale of different vibrational frequencies, that's sort of like being in the trenches. You're in it, and sometimes it's hard to see above the water. So step 2 is about receiving this greater perspective. And so if you're going through anything within that duality scale, meaning that if you're in lower vibrations, for example, and you're experiencing something of lower vibration, and you're able to step off into the neutrality zone and into this more balanced state, into this space of non-attachment, and you're able to open up the next door, which is receiving that greater perspective, then you can open up that greater perspective from the lens and view and eyes of Source into whatever you may have been experiencing in those lower vibrations, in that lower vibrational situation or experience. You can begin putting those puzzle pieces together from this heightened state of awareness or this heightened perspective. You can begin seeing the energy that's going on. Maybe it was a situation that between you and another person that was of lower vibration. You can begin seeing the energy, the underlying energy that was occurring, maybe happening within this other person, maybe going on within that person's life, and why the situation occurred and happened for you, or you can see the many different puzzle pieces that make up a larger perspective than just what was happening in that situation when you were in it on the duality scale. Now, what step 2 actually does for you in shifting your perspective and actually opening up your perspective, which filters in the heightened consciousness, is it puts you into the driver's seat. It puts you into the space of seeing with the eyes of Source, essentially connecting on that much deeper level to that divine inner being and the eyes of that divine inner being that desires to be expressed through you. So step 2 puts you into the driver's seat, and from there you can shift the energy of your physical experience, going all the way back onto that duality scale of experiencing all these different vibrational frequencies and emotions. Meaning that you can now shift the energy of that situation, person, place, or thing that you may have found yourself in on the duality scale, going back to that lower vibrational experience that we were talking about. You can shift the energy of that experience, or of the underlying energy between you and that other person, for example, from this state of viewing with the eyes of Source, from step 2 of seeing with this greater perspective and filtering in this heightened state of consciousness, because you're now in the driver's seat. In the driver's seat, you're connected more deeply with that divine inner being. And so from this state of your conscious awareness, you're able to now shift the energy, direct the energy into where you want it to go versus where the energy is right now. So being here in step 2 is very much about not necessarily paying attention so much to what is, but paying attention to what is in terms of trying to understand the underlying energy, trying to see with the bird's eye view the many different puzzle pieces that make up the situation that you were in. You see that it's a much grander sort of web of things coming together that created that situation that you found yourself in lower vibration. But now you can shift that energy. So viewing with the eyes of Source and opening up heightened consciousness allows you to see what is in that greater, grander perspective. And from there, you can shift the energy into what you want it to be and where you want it to go. This is a lot about stopping the momentum, moving out and into the space of neutrality, balance. Non-attachment is about stopping the momentum of whatever it is that you are playing out on that duality scale, and stopping the momentum and shifting gears into viewing with the eyes of Source and pouring forth heightened states of consciousness allows you to not only stop the momentum of that energy that was playing out, but shift it completely into something completely new, into where you want it to go. You are an extension of Source having a physical experience, and this is about connecting back into that seed within you, which is Source itself, and how everything is a projection of a projection of a projection. This is about remembering who you truly are, and that you have the ability to kind of go all the way back inward into that Source within, that divine inner being, which is essentially you, in you creating your experiences for yourself. When you're able to reel yourself all the way back in and remember that Source within, that divine inner being, and pivot the energy from there, then you're able to shift the energy of what was playing out for you. So again, redirecting the energy through intention from that space of viewing with the eyes of Source and bringing in that heightened consciousness, seeing with the bird's eye view. From there, it's almost like you are now the puppet master, and you can move the different puzzle pieces to where you want it to go versus what was already playing out for you in the smaller micro scale. But now you have the wider perspective, and you can see all the ways that you can shift the energy. And this has a lot to do with intentions being made in the space of you being in that balanced state, the neutrality zone, the non-attachment space, pouring forth heightened consciousness. That space itself allows you to create powerful intentions as the puppet master to shift the puzzle pieces into where you want it to go. So this is where you create your intentions. You don't create your intentions when you're in the trenches on the duality scale, when you're feeling the emotions and being bounced around in those emotions. That's not the place to make your intentions, because your intentions are going to be either they're not going to be heard as loudly because your emotions are going to be louder than your intentions. Meaning if you're in lower vibrations and you're feeling lower emotions, but you make the intention to get out of those lower emotions and lower vibrations, your emotions will still speak louder than your words and your thoughts, because you're in it, you're deep within it, and you're cycling that energy. And there's momentum to that energy. And that's why it's important to step off of that duality scale into the neutrality zone, into the space of non-attachment, and pouring forth heightened consciousness. From that space, make your intentions as the puppet master versus making your intentions as the puppet. From that space, then you're shifting energy in that seed within you, that divine inner being, which again is everything's a projection of that projection of the projection, which essentially all stems back into Source. And so you're shifting energy at the core versus shifting energy later in a later layer. But all the energy from previous layers are still there that does not serve you. So we're simply moving all the way inward back to the seed to shift the energy of the seed, which will shift all the energetic manifestations and projections that come forth from it. And so just like manifestation, as you work in the energetic, non-physical vortex realm, you're shifting vibration and energy first, and then the physical manifestations will follow. So we're going inward and shifting the seed of thought, which is now connected to a heightened consciousness pouring forth versus a lower consciousness pouring forth. And so therefore all of the different projections and manifestations that pour forth from it will be in reflection to the heightened consciousness moving through you. You're going to notice dramatic shifts in the physical manifestations of your reality just because of you shifting that initial seed of thought, which is your connection to the divine inner being. And of course, this is not an overnight thing. It's a shift from that 3D consciousness into the 5D consciousness, which will, for some people, take some time, especially going through all the many different situations that arise for you in your experience on that duality scale, and needing to consciously bring forth more awareness to step off of the scale into a space of neutrality and non-attachment, and then into the next doorway of heightened consciousness to pour forth a greater perspective in your ability to see those different situations playing out for you. And this is going to be something that you may have to do along your journey as these things come up for you. Always consciously stepping off of that scale into the neutrality zone, into this balanced space of non-attachment, and going through the different steps all over again, making your intentions from this greater perspective, from this heightened consciousness space. But as you move through all of these experiences and things that come up for you, it's almost like peeling back the layers of the onion. So you get deeper and deeper and deeper in terms of you connecting to that divine inner source on a more stable level. You begin, as you begin working through all of your stuff as they come up for you and going through the steps, you begin to hold the space of neutrality a lot more easier, meaning you begin to hold the space of non-attachment and balance a lot more stronger, a lot more faster, in a more steady way for longer periods of time, so that you're connecting more and more. It's like you're holding the space longer and longer and longer for that stream of heightened consciousness to move through you for longer periods of time versus just glimpses at a time, glimpses at a time, glimpses at a time. As you hold the space of non-attachment, neutrality, balance, you're able to open the door to heightened states of consciousness to continue moving through you throughout, not only during those specific times, but throughout your entire day and days and weeks and months and years, until you just become that heightened state of consciousness, until you just become the vessel in that balanced space for that heightened state of consciousness to flow through you and be expressed through you in your experience, or also experienced through you. And again, just because you hold the non-attachment, neutrality, balance space and are bringing in heightened states of consciousness, it doesn't mean that you're not experiencing the different layers and levels of vibrations on the duality scale, the different emotions. Duality is still going to exist in 5D, and you're still experiencing all of the different delicious emotions, because that's what physical experience is about. That's what you signed up for. But you're able to hold the balance in order to bring forth the heightened state of consciousness while you are going through each of these different experiences, if that's what you choose. If you choose to go through the many different vibrational frequencies of the duality scale in your experience. But of course, it goes kind of hand in hand, meaning the more you're able to hold a state of balance and pour forth heightened states of consciousness, you're going to tend to not experience the duality scale in extreme dips, highs, and lows. You're going to experience the duality based reality in your preferred states of vibration. Because again, when you hold that space of being the puppet master, seeing with the eyes of source, that heightened perspective, you are creating your reality. You know that you're creating your reality. And so you understand that you want to create certain vibrational experiences for yourself. After making the intention from this greater perspective point, in order to have those intentions manifest in those projected realities, then step 3 is about opening the most important thing in order to manifest those intentions for you, which is opening up a state of ease and flow in your now moment and trusting that everything is unfolding perfectly and in perfect timing. Because then you're able to hold the state of balance in that sort of neutrality zone while bringing forth heightened states of consciousness and experiencing through this space and perspective when you open up ease and flow. Because when it's easy to kind of go back onto the duality scale and experience all the different vibrations and emotions and get sort of swept back into that, and that creates more resistance. But in opening up ease and flow, then you can still open up different vibrational frequencies and emotions, but ease and flow through it, which allows for you to hold the state of non-attachment more and more. Holding the energy of ease and flow is the same as having all the doors open all at once. Nothing is closed. You're able to easily move back and forth between experiencing on the duality scale, but also being divinely connected to the non-attachment, neutrality, balance space, and also being connected with those open doors of bringing forth heightened states of consciousness all at the same time, heightened states of perspectives, and deeper connection to your divine inner being. The minute you introduce any sort of resistance, the doors begin to close, and so you'll have to begin more consciously doing those steps over again, versus ease and flow keeps those doors open for you to easily move through it. So that's what needed to come through for this video. I'm going to stop that here because there might be a couple more steps coming through, as I feel like the next step is actually about now from that space of you have your heightened perspective and you're easing and flowing and bringing forth those manifestations of your intentions from the seed of your divine inner being. But from there, what comes next is about opening up a heart-based center so that you are not only connecting to this heightened perspective of your own reality going on for you and shifting the reality and shifting that projection for you in terms of its connection to your divine inner being, but now opening up a heart-based center is about now connecting to even heightened states of consciousness, which is not just about your own physical reality and manifestations in alignment to your divine inner being, but this is about connecting to states of consciousness that go and connect you far beyond just your immediate reality, meaning from this heart-based center, you embody Christ consciousness, oneness consciousness, which connect you to other aspects of yourself. It connects you to other dimensions, other realities, other frequencies and vibrations that extend beyond just that 3D or 4D sort of box of experience, and opens you into the 5D and beyond, or other aspects of you. But we'll go into that in the next video, because I think this is what needs to be packaged in this video for you to integrate and absorb. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Together with you in oneness, I am Jessica Delmar. Oneness and love be with you.